Hey, it's Noctis. Subscribe to Vincent Valentine EX Turk channel.
Guys, your King Knight Vincent Valentine EX Turk, and things are going up. I just finished my interview with Poop Butt 101, which I want you guys to subscribe to Poop Butt 101. He's good with interviews, and he does like gaming community interviews and stuff like that, and stuff like that, and stuff that he's involved with the community. But anyways, subscribe to him right now. Also, let's get into the video. Now, I think it's possible for a Final Fantasy 17. If Final Fantasy 16 does good, of course. Because they have lost a little bit of money through Final Fantasy 15's, take out story, put it back in as DLC type of ordeal, which a very controversial move for Square Enix to do, so that made them lose some money. So all they got to hope for is the City Arcade, Kingdom Hearts 3, and Final Fantasy VII Remake. Now, if those three games don't make them the money, or people getting the harsh backlash, then it can't be possible for Final Fantasy 17. But the reason why I want to talk about Final Fantasy 17, as we've seen in Angie's philosophy, which is possibly going to be Final Fantasy 16, because let's face it, Final Fantasy 15 was Versus 13, and so they don't have to make a new game. They'll reuse old concepts. Square Enix is very known to reuse old concepts and stuff like that for everything that they're doing. So they're used to doing concepts. Not only just with concept art, but they took out the concepts from Final Fantasy Versus 13 and turned to 15, so they had to make a new one, which is very lazy. They called it something new, and supposedly took out the Fabula Crystallis Novia. But, it's still a Fabula Crystallis Novia game anyway, so it don't really matter. Same thing was Angie's philosophy. Even if they do somehow try to wipe that stuff out, if they reuse this game, it's still going to be another Fabula Crystallis Novia game. Probably even further than 15, of course, because of the timeline. But whether it's not or anything like that, that's Final Fantasy 16. But the reason why I wanted to talk about Final Fantasy 16, or should I say, Final Fantasy 16 slash, Final Fantasy 16, Angie's philosophy, possibly Final Fantasy 16, it could be changed because it was only a tech demo. But they have it in the Middle Eastern, and the reason why I say that it's possible the next Final Fantasy game will take place in Africa, or at least an African type of environment, is because they have already went to the Middle East in Angie's philosophy. And let's be quite honest, we're tired of the whole England, places like England, USA, and Western places. I mean, let's be kind of honest, too many Final Fantasy games have too many. The original Final Fantasy games had all Renaissance period, Middle Earth times, and then the PlayStation 1 Final Fantasy games through all the way. Besides, except I would have to say that 10 was kind of different, but before 10, we would always be in like futuristic Western areas where it's all Western stuff. I think 10 changed it because since Final Fantasy 10 follows the theme of water, and follows the water theme type of stuff, Final Fantasy 10 has pretty much islands and peninsulas and everything to deal with water, seasides, and all that stuff. Water cities, underwater cities, overwater cities. Because Final Fantasy 10, first of all, the main character's name is Tidus. And Tidus is a part of Tide is part of water. Plus, Tidus uses a water sword. So all Final Fantasy 10 was all water themed. So it was pretty much like the continent of the Hawaiian continents, pretty much, is what they used for Final Fantasy 10. And from what we've seen in Angie's philosophy, it is very possible we're going to be getting some new continental environments and continental stories now, since Final Fantasy's gone from the Western, areas from their older games. We could be I think it's possible that we could get an African continent Final Fantasy game in Final Fantasy 17. because Angie's philosophy becomes Final Fantasy 16, and that's in the Mid-East. That's in the Mid-East, you know, pretty much. The Middle East, pretty much. So I think it's possible to get a Final Fantasy game in African continents as well. I think it's very possible. And I think could be good because that could mean that they're getting even more diverse. Because if they're gonna have Final Fantasy 16, which is Angie's philosophy, which that's the footage I'm gonna be using into this video that you see on there. Period. I think it's possible. I think it's possible for Final Fantasy 17 to have an African continent. Because, some of the characters in Angie's philosophy is going to be Mid-Eastern, obviously, because that's the continent and location where Final Fantasy 16 is possibly going to take place. So, I think it's fairly possible Final Fantasy 17 is going to take place on an African continent, which would be good, which will make it diverse, of course. Now, this will take over all of it, because Final Fantasy continents go through the whole entire continent when it comes to stuff, or whole entire world, or whole entire universe. So I think it's very possible that, you know, we're gonna get characters from all original Africa places, and also South African too. All those places would be, of course, it would be called something else. But I'm just saying, if it's possible for the Mid-Eastern type of Final Fantasy game to happen, then it's also possible we could get a Final Fantasy in African continents, you know, with a different type of story and stuff like that. Now, what I want for Final Fantasy 17 for combat stuff, I'd like to have Final Fantasy 15 combat or Final Fantasy 7 remake combat. But I feel that the Final Fantasy 7 remake combat system with the ATB bar mixed with the action RPG stuff is only going to be exclusively for Final Fantasy 7 Remake, because it's, you know, it's a special game. So I think, if possible, since they use the action combat, the Luminous engine for the Final Fantasy 15 combat system, I think they might perfect it for Angie's philosophy at Final Fantasy 16. Thus, I think Final Fantasy 17 is going to probably also have a combat system similar to 15. Which will be really good, except you ain't going to get no Royal Arms as your limit break. They'll come up with some other limit break, but you'll be fighting like Final Fantasy 15 with a different character, different story, and different continent. And maybe this could also be added to the lore of Dissidia. Maybe Dissidia Arcade could take DLCs from Angie's philosophy and Final Fantasy 17 for however long Final Fantasy Dissidia Arcade still stays as an active game. So, that's what I gotta say about that. So, may the crystal be with you. So, like and subscribe, share, tell me what your thoughts is.
Ay, I like bitch, you was your mess. Ay, can't keep my dick in my pants. Ay, my bitch don't love me no more. Ay, she kick me out on life, bro.
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Yeah. Ay. Yeah. Ay. Yeah. Ay. Yeah.